Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you are returning from the previous season, welcome back. I'm very excited to get this project going. And if you are dropping in for the first time, welcome. There's already some content on the channel that you can definitely check out about who I am and what we're doing. But my name is Dom, and I am the creator of the Android Factory. And today we are actually going to scrap this little I don't know, mashup of a project where we discussed a whole lot of different things about layouts and some UI elements. And we're just going to kind of start fresh, start from a clean, slate, a clean state of mind, and build a UI from there. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and close this project, and we're going to go ahead and create a new project. We're just going to go ahead and select an empty activity and hit next. Let's name this bad boy EPL. This channel is covering just Kotlin, so hopefully that's going to be a welcome change for you. We're going to keep the API level somewhat high here, just because we're not intending to publish this on the Google Play Store, so we don't need full support of everybody. And so we're going to just click finish here, let Android Studio run its thing, and get to our beautiful activity main hello world tip of the day kind of thing. So hopefully this doesn't take too long, but if you missed it in the last season, we covered a lot of UI elements, and then we took a somewhat of a deep dive on the recycler view itself. And I apologize, my cats are, just doing their thing this time of day. Yeah, anyway, we dissected the recycler view a little bit, and so we're gonna primarily focus, this application on, just a usage of the recycler view, and hopefully just build a bit more meaningful of a UI instead of just, a list of text views or something along those lines. So, do we still have it up? Yeah. So this is kind of what we ended with the last season. Nothing too glorious, nothing too interactive or intelligent even. But this like header card here, you see that's not scrolling, actually looks like a reasonable UI that could exist in a real app without a doubt. Maybe a little bit better theming and better color matching and that kind of stuff. But for sure, this nice card view with the rounded edges and just the image being nice and rounded and at a very nice and consistent aspect ratio with a little header and description text. That doesn't look bad at all. So we're going to go ahead and continue on with building some kind of UI that mimics this, and we're going to build a recycler view of items that kind of mimic this, handle a little bit of the on-click of this button, and then get into a little bit of slightly more advanced things where we're actually going to like load this image over the internet instead of having it downloaded into the project. And maybe on the next screen we'll kind of do a little bit more as well. Okay, so if my computer seems to stop struggling here, we can go ahead and just run this to make sure everything is all connected and in the right way. Everything's all good. But this should just be a simple hello world, text view in the middle of the screen. Yeah. kind of struggling a little bit. Yeah, a tiny bit. And I guess if you missed it in the last episode as well, or last season as well, you know, I played soccer all throughout college, or all my life, even through college. So that's why we're kind of going to have this themed around the Premier League. Um, I guess this could go for, any sport. It's just going to kind of follow a pretty simple, basic pattern of, sorry about that. These guys are going nuts. Um, a pretty simple pattern of kind of, defining a header image, defining a title, defining a description, maybe some additional metadata about, this little card, and then basically a list of those custom objects that we're going to build. So, if you're super into football instead, or super into hockey, which I'm very pumped that hockey's starting, or whatever your sport, or maybe movies or TV shows or whatever, hopefully you can see that this skeleton of like a project idea is just going to fit for, like any one of those. So definitely feel free to, swap it out wherever you feel appropriate. Man, we are struggling. Seems to be a tiny bit better, but wow, yeah, this is still struggling. So as you can see here, we just have a basic Hello World application, not really doing too much here. Main activity, just inflating this view or this layout. And oh my God, what is happening right now? Okay, we're gonna keep chugging along. If it gets too bad, I'll figure something out. But for now, we're just gonna keep it. So, um, we're just gonna go ahead and add a recycler view. We're gonna set the width and the height to 0 dp so that we can actually, not actually, but we will describe the layout and the height in the width and the height in the constraints. If this is brand new to you and completely foreign, you can definitely check out some of the other content in the last season where we dive into RecyclerView and specifically the constraint layout. So we describe what's going on here with the constraints and stuff like that. But assuming you have that understanding, this should be just pretty obvious that we're telling this thing to basically, take up as much room as the parent has. We're gonna just set RecyclerView as the ID. Let's not forget our layout manager. We're just gonna do linear for now. And then our orientation, we're gonna set it to be vertical. So when your entire screen is a recycler view, or when your entire screen is something that scrolls, no matter what you're gonna put in that, the layout file is actually very simple, mainly because it's basically just the recycler view, and that's going to give you this entire region to be scrollable, and then within your adapter class, you're gonna then just describe what views you're inflating at what positions, and so you can kind of build whatever you want there. So this is basically going to be it for the for the activity main for at least quite a while. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and close that, and then as I mentioned here, we're going to get our as I mentioned before, a little bit of that structure. We're gonna define a class that we're gonna hold all of that metadata information about each tile in. So, trying to think of a reasonable name here. For me, I'm just gonna call it a soccer tile, for lack of a better name at the moment. And this is a perfect example or reason to introduce the Kotlin data class. So instead of like a traditional uh, class that you would end up building in Java, where you would then maybe have everything defined in the constructor, and then all of the arguments, or sorry, all of the variables as global variables in the class, and then in the constructor you say like this dot name equals name, this dot age equals age, blah 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 blah. The Kotlin data class actually kind of just uh, I don't know, makes life a little easier for that like very common use case. So basically, and I guess as we go forward, hopefully it'll make a little more sense. But this is just going to be a simple way to completely encapsulate all of that information. So if we remember what the UI looked like, which um, da, 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 da. Yeah, this emulator's struggling a little. We had a header image, we had a title, we had a description, and um, yeah, I mean, I guess we could put, button text in there or whatever. So why don't we just start with those four attributes, and I guess we'll actually add a fifth one here, but we'll make that pretty obvious. So the fifth attribute that doesn't really fit on the UI there is might not be helpful for this example, but I'm just going to do it because it's good practice and it's a good thought process to have. We're going to create an ID associated with each one of these, and that might be helpful in the future for sure. So then we have header, header image resource ID, because to start, these are going to be resource IDs that images that we're going to download and import into the project, and then we're just going to map to those. We're also going to have a title, and then we're also going to have a description. And you know what? Let's make this description, Command D, description long, and then what was the last one? Button text. Okay, so here we actually have, well, I want to talk about a few things here. So, in Kotlin, you can actually provide default, I guess, like default arguments to not only constructors, but also, or default values to not only constructors, but also function calls as well. So instead of having, especially in the function call, well, I guess in both cases, the constructor or the function call land in Java, you would end up, I'm blanking on the word, but you would end up, creating like four different functions that called one another, each with a different variable, overloading. Jeez, sorry. You would end up overloading the function. So if the function that you wanted to call had like 3 parameters in it, and let's say like the last one was a Boolean that would default to false for whatever reason, you could create another function that was named the exact same. It would only take the first 2 parameters and it would pass in false, to the other function that had 3 parameters, and then keeping and preserving the first 2 parameters that were passed in. I don't know why I'm talking about that. It would look something like this. Function hey would have like a name, which would be a string, and age, which would have an int, and then like is I don't know, is over 20, no, not 21, I don't know, let's just say like is, oh my god, is in college, and that would be a Boolean, right? And then you would have another function that would be called hey that had a name and a string, and then it would say age int, right? And then this function hey would call the other one with false. right? And so this is overloading this entire this function here, because you're basically providing a default value at this point. However, Kotlin offers, much like how you're seeing here, default values in the constructor. You can also do that in function calls. So you could do exactly this, and then if you wanted to, you could directly call this function with just you could directly call this function with just the first two. So name Dom, age 99, and it's not going to complain because this already has a default value. But then you could say, true if you wanted to override that default value, but you can kind of, this is just like a super convenient way of managing the overload functionality. And you can do that for all of the parameters. So you could actually end up creating a function that doesn't even require anything, even though it has multiple parameters. But if they're all default values, then you'll be fine. And so that's actually what we've done here. You could see in this constructor that there are 5 or 6 attributes here. But if we create a tile right now, the IDE is not freaking out, because it actually has values for all of these different things. If, for instance, like this one was not set to something default, it would start to complain and say no value passed for this particular parameter, which is the only one that does not have a default value. So the data class is really nice because you can basically just add all of your variables that you're going to need for that class into your constructor, and then you can, with that in conjunction with Kotlin's default parameters here, or default values, you can kind of build something that's super convenient. And then you can also, I'll just edit it and put it on screen because I forget the name of it. But you can, if for whatever reason we wanted to keep all of these default values the same, but change description, which winds up in the middle of this object, you can actually call out a specific field that you want to set, and then at the end this tile would have all of these fields blank or zeros, and then the description would just say hey. So this is also super nice because you'll find that plenty of times you want to copy an object and modify one field, or you want certain things to remain default and then only modify other thing. And if they're not the first attribute or the first variable or the first few variables in a row, it would be like super annoying to have to maintain, okay, what are the default values, call them in order, and then change the value that we actually want. And then you can at this point call things out of order, and it'll figure it out. Your object will be created properly and have the right data in the right fields and stuff like that. So super convenient stuff from just the Kotlin perspective. The data class will save you a whole bunch of boilerplate code. And then I do also believe that it overrides the equals and hash code functions for you. So when it comes time to evaluate, and I think it's actually based on what you put in this constructor. So when it comes time to actually compare these two objects, if you had 2 of them, if you're able to compare them and see if they are the same, you don't have to do that comparison. The data class functionality under the hood should take care of that. So getting a little long here, I'm going to cut it here. We've basically started a new project. We've modified our UI to contain what we need, and we've built out a simple class and talked about what this actually means, and given an introduction to a few other Kotlin syntax differences than Java. And we've created this class to represent and hold basically what's going to become, this UI in the future. So thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you in the next one, where we'll continue this and maybe start to get going on the adapter here for the recycler view so that we can get something on screen. So I'll see you there. Thanks.